Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Gregtastic, and honestly, I'm not exactly sure how this video is going to go, but I have the general idea of what I want to talk to you guys about in my head. It's just that I didn't script it out, and I don't know how exactly it's going to come out. But basically, I started this channel. It's 2020, about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, depends on whenever Rising came out. That's the first major video that I made where this channel actually got recognition. And I said, Rising comes out today. I got my chip, blah blah blah, and I was excited about it. I was happy about it. And now it's 3 or 4 years later. I'm too lazy to go back and check, and I've kind of soured on AMD a little bit. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. As far as the processors go, yes, AMD is doing a great job. I think the processors are improving and improving year after year. But here's the thing: is still a I don't want to say it's still a competition because it should be a competition. But what I'm saying is they're still playing catch up, in my opinion, to Intel year after year. And at the end of the day, yes, their stock market price is doing great. Yes, the processes are getting closer. Yes, they're getting more of a market share, yada, 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 XYZ, all the way through as far as you want to go. But as much as people are talking about Intel's messing up because they're on old architecture, or they're just pushing 5 gigahertz on the same thing and the chips are just going to get hotter, or all that nonsense you hear about, AMD is still catching up. So what does that mean? Why am I bringing that up? To me, what it means is right now, okay, AMD is closing the gap, but Intel is not doing well. They're not making the improvements that they need to make. So what do you predict is going to happen in the future? What is I'm not gonna sit here and say what does Intel need to do to thwart off AMD, because Intel is still technically in the lead as far as processing power. In some case, yeah, I guess AMD, not really thermals, but still to this day, if you're a gamer and you're looking for the best processor and you don't care about the price and you don't care about this or that or those little things that make you feel better, it's like if you're buying a car, and yeah, not everyone's going to go out and buy the most expensive car just so that they could go the fastest. But if you did do that, which would you buy? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, AMD is grabbing that share because their stuff is more value oriented, and people who are okay with compromising are able to sit there and say, well, I don't have the fastest, but I have this, which is fine. And in every market in the world, there's a place for that. But when in this architecture of Ryzen or Zen or whatever, when are we going to say it's not okay to be at Intel's feet, but to be where Intel's at? Eventually you got to catch up and make things completely even. And if you don't, it's going to be an issue, because a company like Intel, with the money that they have and the research that they have, they may be struggling now, but you need to think just as quick. In 3 years that it took you to gain that market share, 3 years later you could lose it. So next year, 2021, all right, great, AMD's fine, they have nothing to worry about. But just as far as the CPUs are concerned, I just feel like they're not progressing as much as people think they are. And that's not to say anything about where they've come, because it's great. But you just got to remember that you're constantly talking about, we're almost there, we're almost there, we're almost there. When are you going to be there? And something to think about. And I didn't even start this video, like I said, it's unscripted. I didn't know where I was going to go with it, but I didn't start it to talk about CPUs. I started it to talk about GPUs. But my point remains is that I don't think AMD or their investors or their fanboys, and I am technically kind of like an AMD fanboy, but I don't think everyone should be as confident or as happy with where they are today as they should be. I still think they have some ground to make up, which is fine. It's fine, but make it up, you know? Because Intel is not the type of company that's going to sit here for the next 10 years tripping over their feet. Eventually, they're going to get it together, and whatever the improvement they make is going to either turn it into a real competition again or just leave you in the dust. That being said, what I wanted to talk about is the GPUs. The original title for this video, and I don't know what the title is going to be now, but the original title for the video was going to be AMD, I want to buy your product so badly, but I can't. Processors, yes, you make it easy for me because I have a Ryzen 3600 in my PC and it cost me $160. $160 for a 6-core, 12-thread processor that usually I have the stock. What the hell? Unscripted? I have the stock fan on it now, or heatsink on it now, but I bought this bad boy whenever I feel like I'm not too lazy to take my computer apart and install that. I'm going to. But I'm fine with the stock cooler. It sits around 4 gigahertz. I don't overclock it. That's just where it goes, and I'm fine with that. That's good enough for what I need. But I'm interested to see how the Hyper 212 Black Edition used to be the Hyper 212 Evo, but the Hyper 212 Black Edition. I'm excited to see where that could take this processor. But that being said, the GPU I have in my computer is a 2060 Super. And when I first started this channel and I first started getting back into computer building, and I was excited about all this, and I got the 1700, what I paired it with was a RX 480, and then eventually a 580, and I was super in this mode of let's go AMD. AMD, you're struggling against Intel, you're struggling against Nvidia. They're like monopolizing the market. They're charging more for their products. And in the meantime, in the last couple of years, since I started the channel, I haven't been making videos. I haven't had a computer until just recently. But I've still been keeping up with everything, and I still, even though I didn't have a computer, well, I had a laptop, but a desktop, I sold off my parts. Even though I wasn't making videos and wasn't building computers, I still kept up with everything every day like I was. I still check the news sites every day, still check Reddit every day. And taking that step away and not having a computer, not investing any money into anything, I kind of came to this realization that I was being a fanboy with AMD. And as I just talked about the CPUs, yes, you're not being a fanboy if you are making compromise here and there. Like if you're just worried about I'm gonna build the biggest gaming rig ever and you choose AMD over Intel, most likely you made that decision for a reason that wasn't based on what's gonna be the best CPU to buy, which is fine. But you made it on a value decision, or you made it on a I like AMD decision, whatever. So with CPUs, that's fine. AMD is close enough that you could buy a AMD CPU over an Intel CPU, even if the Intel CPU technically is a little better or whatever. You could justify that purchase. What I find hard to justify nowadays, and why I decided to make this video, is in my opinion they've fallen so far behind in the GPU sector that they, like, you know, there's no excuse. Like they bought ATI, they made ATI a part of their company, and now it's like it's gonna feel weird for me to say this because a lot of people are probably gonna think, oh well, the 5700 XT is pretty competitive, but competitive with what? To me, AMD is not even competitive with Nvidia at this point. It's almost becoming like what AMD versus Intel was like with the CPUs before Ryzen. And again, people are gonna say, well, the 5700 XT, what, but whatever. All right, okay. Right now, when I got into this whole PC thing again, they released the 480 for what, like $200, $250. between 200 and 250. That was an incredible value. You could basically play any 1080p game you wanted at high or ultra settings. I'm not even into that type of stuff, but my point is you can buy a $200 to $250 card and play 1080p at do almost anything you wanted for that price, and that was a good value. Now where are we? Because even back then, here's the thing, is the issue with AMD is they've never, and it doesn't look like anytime soon, will compete with Nvidia as far as the top end cards, like those $1,000 cards. Not that I would purchase them, but there's people out there who do. And your technology is not even close to competitive. 5700 XT is your best card, and that doesn't come close to what Nvidia is offering as their best. But then, take away the fact that your technology is not there, your price points, 5700, 5600 XT, they wiggle in this little middle ground where it's a competitive product. But let's start at the low end. Let's go from the 580 or 590, whatever, to 5500 XT. You basically released a card that lowers the thermals but doesn't provide any performance versus what you were offering before, and are you charging it at a higher price? I don't know how many people are buying cards just thinking about how much is this going to cost me on my electricity bill every year, but you were never competitive before the Navi products. You were never competitive with Nvidia as far as thermals. Yes, the 570 might have been better than a 1050 or 1050 Ti or whatever, but 570 might have even been better than 1650 or 1650 Super, whatever card you want to compare it. But the thermals weren't close. And now you're releasing the Navi products. You have better thermals, and now it's like the performance is, the merits of the cards are very arguable. To me, 5500 XT, there's no point in it. 5600, 5700, they fit in their price points, but here's where they don't. Here's where I spent the last 2 months trying to decide what video card I wanted to buy. And I really wanted to buy an AMD card. I wanted to do an all AMD build. I wanted to support AMD. I'm looking at the 5600 XT, I'm looking at the 5700 and the 5700 XT, and I'm like, wow, this performance for the price is not that bad. But then here's the other thing. And here's where, never mind the performance, which does, or the technology, which does need to improve, but the other thing is like the extras. Is I want to encode video on my computer. I want to stream games on my computer. Now when I start, objectively doing this research, not doing it as an AMD fanboy, like I want to buy this AMD card, but doing it as an objective purchaser who's saying, okay, I need these needs fulfilled, and I'm not going to go in it stupidly and buy a 5700 XT because I want to get the best AMD card, or I want to get the best card, which I can't afford the best Nvidia card. But when I start looking at the actual performance of these cards, what they do, I start to realize, all right, I could buy a 5700 XT for what? How much? I'm sorry, the price is, what's a 5700 XT, like 400-ish? To me, my thing is, like, when I buy my video card, I stalk Micro Center to see what their open box deals are. So really, for me, a 5700 XT, when it pops up open box, would be like $330. A 2060 Super, when it pops up open box, would be like $330. 56 XT would be $230. 1660 Ti would be $230. So I don't know the new prices as much as like Micro Center's open box prices, but I'm basically looking at it like I could buy the best I could get and get a 5700 XT, and that will provide me with the best gaming performance that I personally could afford, because I can't afford much more than that. But then I'm looking at the 2060 Super, and I'm like, actually, I was looking at from 1660 Super up to like 2060/2060 Super-ish, like in that range. And I'm like, well, I want to stream games. I want to encode video. How much of a difference is there going to be between Nvidia and AMD when I'm doing that stuff? And I'm starting to do research. I'm starting to look at performance as far as streaming games. I'm starting to look at performance as far as how to encode videos, not how to encode, but what the performance is encoding video, with just the CPU doing the work versus with the CPU and the GPU, and AMD versus Nvidia. And I came to the realization basically that Nvidia gets this like bad rap for charging the price that they do for their products, but they're also providing you with all this extra stuff outside of just here's our gaming performance. If you're a streamer, you're going to stream much more easily using the Nvidia codec with whatever streaming software you're using. Well, I mean, I should take that back. You could use AMD's Relive service if you want, but if you're like a normal person who wants to use something like OBS, Nvidia is going to be a lot better. If you're like a normal person who's going to encode in Vegas or Premiere, Nvidia is going to be a lot better. And I think I could be lying about that. Someone fact check me. But definitely for the streaming, the Nvidia codec is a big plus versus AMD, where it came to, in my opinion, if I'm going to spend the same amount of money, around $330 for a video card, open box that is, do I want to get the best performance with the 5700 XT, or I want to get, stay with me, I'm thinking about it. Do I want to get slightly worse performance, but also be able to stream at high quality and not have to worry about bogging down my resources doing that? Basically, as far as AMD has come, I feel like reality check, like slap yourself in the face. Where are we? They still have a lot of progress to make with the CPUs. To me, they're 1 year of Intel actually innovating away from being far behind in the rearview mirror again, and they have so much to do with the GPUs still. I don't think AMD's in any trouble. I mean, it would be stupid to say they're in trouble with the way CPUs are doing, but even their GPU market, the fact that they're providing solutions for Microsoft and Sony for their consoles, they're not in any trouble. They're fine. I just wish, as far as, you know, a company, as far as their competitiveness, that they would just step it up a tiny bit with the CPUs and a great bit with the GPUs. And what I would tell you, what I needed to tell myself, is if you're looking to make purchases, it's a good time. AMD is doing fine. Look at their stock price. Look at Intel's stock price. Don't worry about AMD anymore. My point is, it's time to stop saying I'm going to buy AMD to spite Intel, or I'm going to buy AMD to spite Nvidia. Stop thinking like that, because what you're going to do is you're going to buy AMD to spite yourself. So now's the time to look at the CPUs and the GPUs, their markets, what you're thinking about buying very objectively, and see what your use case is and what they're offering, and make an educated decision. Both in the GPU space and the CPU space, the companies are very competitive, and if you're someone who wants the best gaming performance for the buck and you can't afford a 2080 or a 2080 Super or Ti or whatever they call it, or Titan, whatever, and a 5700 XT is in your price range and you don't plan on streaming or anything like that, buy it, sure. But if you want the best bang for your buck and you also want to stream, then look at Nvidia. My point is, it's time to just think about things objectively. You don't need to save AMD, they don't need saving. And just as quickly as you were worried about the anti-competitiveness with Intel and Nvidia, AMD could become the same way. They're still a company just like any other company. So I think I got out everything I wanted to say. In the comments, let me know if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, or you think I'm just crazy, which is fine as well. And then if you liked watching the video and you haven't been to the channel before, subscribe, because I should be coming out with more coming soon. And thanks for watching.